There it is, and okay.
Right. Call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. We have Chome and Lynn participating remotely via Zoom. And we have Kit and Brady and myself here. So here we go. The first thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Would a commissioner like to move to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Kit moves,
I second.
Brady seconds. Are there any requests for changes to the agenda?
None for me.
Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I will say that's approved unanimously. Next on our agenda is the approval of our minutes. Is there a commissioner that would like to move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of 1/9/26?
So moved.
I'll second that. Okay.
Brady moved, Lynn seconded.
Sure. Two.
Is there any requests for any changes to those minutes? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes of 1/9/26, say aye.
Aye.
And I say aye. Lynn, did you say aye?
I said
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed who, on the approving of the agenda, I missed who moved and who seconded.
I think Brady moved and
Kit moved, I seconded.
Yeah.
sure.
All right.
Thank you.
And for the minutes of the special meeting of 1/15/26,
I move we approve the minutes of or January 15th, rather.
great. Kit moves,
I second.
Brady seconds. Any requests for modifications on that?
No.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Okay. And now we're moving along in our agenda to an item that we might have some people here in the audience about. We have the approval of our policy for public comment. We did a first reading of this at our last meeting, but would a commissioner like to move to approve our public comment policy?
I move to approve the public comment policy as amended.
Mhm.
And I'll second.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussion or requests for changes on that, commissioners? All right, we looked about it and talked about it last time. So all in favor of approving our public comment policy, say aye.
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 I say aye. And so it's approved unanimously. So part of that policy indicates that as chair, I'll read a little preamble to our public comment policy. The Lopez Park and Recreation District welcomes public comment in a fair and orderly manner, consistent with Washington's Open Public Meeting Act. Speakers may comment orally or in writing, including remotely when accommodations are requested. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity, speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and the overall comment period may be time limited. Comments should be respectful and non-disruptive. Public comment is intended to inform the board. Board members will not respond during the comment period, though the chair may provide brief factual information if appropriate. Lack of response does not indicate agreement or disagreement. Comments may be referred for future consideration, staff follow-up, or written response. So at this time, maybe Kit, you want to be our timekeeper, and
Sure.
Brady, you can kind of take a list maybe of people that want to raise their hands for public comment.
Let's do.
And we have a Zoom that we need to show, so maybe we should designate a. How do you?
You mean move the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we need is a place to give public comment so that the Zoom screen would be on that one place for each person. But first, let's see, show of hands, and if you'd offer a name, who wants to make public comment tonight, and I'll come around and call you in. So I see you, David. This is signing the 3-minute public comment period. Friday, Dan. All right, Matthew. Bill.
And then Bridie had a couple to
We
read.
have those written comments. Yeah. Okay, so 2 written comments. Anyone else? Okay, Rob.
And I see on our Zoom screen a raised hand. Is Callie raising her hand to speak? We'll just assume that, and if she decides not.
It's not a webinar, so I think she can pop in, but and speak from there.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else?
Joan, do you see anyone else on Zoom that's raising their hand to make public comment?
That's Callie, and she has to leave soon because of kids' bedtime, so she hopes to comment soon.
Would anyone object to Callie going first? People who've signed up.
I definitely
Abby,
don't need to go. I don't need to go first. Just I need to leave before 7. So
Well, moving you first is probably easiest, Callie, if that's all right. We just put you up at the top. So we have Callie, David, Bridie, Dan, Matthew, Bill, written number 1, written number 2, and Rob. Anyone else? Okay. And Kit, you've got a 3-minute
I do.
timer?
Would it be possible to move the computer so that we can
Yeah,
face the
That's the
commenters?
next step. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So speakers have to come to a certain place, right? So you'll come up and I think maybe that tall. Yeah. We could make it that seat. Yeah. This is also a chance for those on Zoom, maybe to very quickly just sort of see who's present today.
Great,
So
thank you. That's so
moving
helpful.
around for your purposes to see many of the folks present signed up to speak. So you heard their names that way. Hi, Lynn. Okay, and so if we put it here, Callie's first, and Callie's on Zoom. So David, would you mind sitting here just so I can figure out if we got it right? Be our guinea pig. We'll have to lower the screen for the next person. I pretty much guaranteed, I think. Oh, that seems good. You're okay with that? Okay. All right, so I think we got the Zoom part of it. So Callie, you're up.
Yeah. David's going to testify.
yeah, I mean, David, if you want to go first, I feel a little awkward.
David's going to testify.
So.
You are like up, Callie. I'm looking at you too, and I got
I
a
know.
nice.
I feel like it makes me feel more comfortable.
I don't mind sitting in the hot
Yeah.
I'll probably have better.
Um,
Do you want better? No. I'll
So,
do it.
I
Oh,
guess.
think I'll do it.
Sorry, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Can you mute Sim? You mute Sandy.
Mute our.
Hey Sandy, maybe you could mute yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll just tell Sandy to mute herself.
Yeah, if Sandy mute, if participants mute, that will help the audio for sure.
Okay, timer started.
Go ahead, Callie.
Okay. I guess my biggest, I'm more just kind of listening and gathering, but from what I have heard, at least from Chom so far, is that there is a push to put it on the April ballot. And I just personally want to echo some of what the information that Chom has put forward in terms of I guess I'm curious about the potential loan that would have to be taken against taxpayer money to pay for that $40,000 to go on the ballot, to get it on the April ballot versus waiting until the November ballot and not having to take out a loan against taxpayer money, which in itself feels like a red flag in terms of just a huge financial ask from the community instead of waiting an extra 6 or 7 months. And my biggest kind of qualm with the rec levy in general is the adult recreational piece. And I think I'm just curious to have more information and expansion on certain, I mean, really kind of the need for taxpayers to pay for adult recreation, but specifically certain, I have like specifically certain issues with specific recreational activities that it feels like are attended by only a small number of people on this island, many of whom have a lot of money and are expecting any money at all from taxpayers to pay for maintenance for their courts. Or I don't have my thoughts fully gathered. I wasn't expecting to go first, so I apologize for being all over the place here. But I think for me, I'm just more wanting to bring to the surface that I feel it feels out of alignment for me to ask Lopez taxpayers to pay for adult recreational activities, many of those activities of which are played by and attended by only a handful of people, many of whom have plenty of money to fund their own activities and maintenance and have in the past. And so I don't know, I just want to state that. And I think for me, I want to put forward that I think the levy would be more widely accepted and embraced if it was presented from the perspective of helping subsidize certain programs instead of fully fund them. So I just also want to present that. But thanks for listening. Sorry, a little discombobulated. It's late for us over here.
Okay, those down.
Thank you, Callie.
Yeah.
And then
I'll just jump in there.
David.
Kelly, I think you were articulate. You did just great. And I will second what Callie said in terms of the taxpayer, the taking out a loan to go in April. I think it's way too fast. And I second her other statement as well. But what I came here thinking is like, you are mostly the formation committee. You came in and you spent a lot of time together creating a vision for this. And how are you going to see the diversity of the no votes? And I don't think, and you spent a lot of time trying to sell it. And how are you going to hear the diversity of opinion when you have, for the most part, you're the same group that put together the first thing. So so that's, you do have our good friend Shom, which does provide you some diversity, and she happens to be kind, so you're lucky there. I also think I would just pile on Callie's statement of like, help other organizations. I just got off a fundraising meeting for the Youth Conservation Corps. We are raising a good chunk of money from private donors, and we have a lot of big donors. The Family Resource Center is just raising $10 million to build a food center. They don't need the taxpayers sort of a regressive tax to take over everything. It makes sense to help them out rather than take over the operation of something like youth programming. Yep.
Thank you, David.
Brady Smith, you might be around in the.
No, you want me to read the letters first?
No, that's later, the written comment I wrote down later.
Brady,
Yes,
he adds to the list.
yeah,
Thank you.
you want to be on? And we had a couple other folks arrive after the list was written. Anyone else want to speak who came later? Gary?
So it seems like the main topic we're talking about is the levy and whether or not we should go for April. If anybody wants to do any research by contacting the school to find out about what will happen with our athletics without the levy in April, they should do that and do their own homework on that. So I'm going to basically use the thing on Lopez Rocks for the pool for this next Tuesday. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the pool has asked for 30 volunteers from 8:30 to 5 to do heavy lifting. And if you read the list, what they're asking for is people between 25 and 45 years old who are capable of working hard. So that's the middle class. That's the people who are running the sports programs. That's the people who are keeping our school and our students and our athletes And every time we talk about moving, every time we talk about moving that ballot farther, every time I think about the fact that we didn't vote that levy in, it's so disappointing because it's people from a place of privilege that have the money, that have what they need, or they don't have kids in the school that are saying, that's too much, we can't do it. You're asking me who works, my husband who works, you're asking the 25 to 45-year-olds who go to work every day to keep putting the work in. That's what you're saying. Just so you all know. And that is, the pool is asking for 1 day for 8:30 to 5 p.m. for those people. Everybody who's voting no on the levy or saying we shouldn't have a levy, they're asking us to keep doing what we've been doing all along. And it's not fair, it's not kind, and it's not right. Thank you, Becky. I didn't cry, I had a duck myself. Thank you, Dan.
So for Lopez, by Lopez. For the people of Lopez, by the people of Lopez. That's what you said. I would like to respond to you guys not responding in public comment. I think that's a terrible thing. The county council, I've gone there, we've had a back and forth. The fire department, I've gone there, we've had a back and forth. The dump at their meetings, they're a junior taxing district, we had back and forth. The senior center board, I'm on that, we encourage dialogue back and forth. The Port of Lopez has public comment at the first and at the last. They have 2 public comments and they enjoy back and forth. I think it's a terrible thing that you don't have a back and forth with the people that you're working for. Different subject. The levy amount. I think personally, it should be like 10 cents a thousand. Just support the school and be a pass-through, not have hire managers and you know, higher ups, maybe just hire a bookkeeper to keep track of the money. But just a pass through so you don't have to have supervisors and all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much. And I hope next time we talk, we can have a dialogue.
Thanks, Dan.
Matthew?
All right. Yep. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Matthew Bullock. I'm a full-time resident of Lopez Island with my wife and 2 kids. I'm also on the school board. I'm also a school board member on at our school district. I'm here to urge you to put a revised levy proposal for the Park and Rec district back on the ballot in April. The recent vote in November showed that the majority of Lopez voters supported this idea. And that's why we're here today. While there was a lack of funding proposal didn't win the vote, the funding proposal didn't win the vote. It absolutely was within striking distance. I'm urging you to take a measured look at the community's comments, criticisms, and revise appropriately. We have to go back to the voters with a more streamlined, modest proposal I feel would have a better chance to pass. I also want to acknowledge the LEAF, so the Lopez Island Education Foundation, and the community at large for stepping up and raising the $300,000 needed for this year's budget gap at the school. It was a fantastic accomplishment, and it's just one more reason why I'm proud to call this amazing community home. However, I caution you not to look at the fundraising success as a reason to not seek funding for the Park and Rec District. Brady Smith and the rest of the school staff trimmed and made deep and painful cuts in multiple areas just to get the school to pass a budget with a $300,000 gap. Raising $300,000 a year is not a sustainable funding plan. Surely no one can dispute this fact. I understand, and I believe the community understands, that creating a dedicated funding source for the school's athletic programs will not solve all the school's budget woes. Frankly, there's not a magic bullet here. Perhaps we can pursue a magic buckshot approach. Multiple smaller pieces fundraising to help the school's budget issues from a variety of sources. Ultimately, we all want a vibrant Lopez Island. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bill, you're up.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Bill LeDrew, and I want to speak. First of all, I'd like to thank the founding committee and you commissioners for the work you've done to make the Parks and Rec District a reality. We now have to fund it, but you've put a tremendous amount of work into that. I want to talk a little bit as a parent of a recent graduate from the high school. She was an athlete in the school, and I'm also speaking as a volunteer coach and a member of a community who believes that the school is really at the heart of our community. I think you've all heard this said before. School sports in particular are a critical element of our education system. My thoughts on that are, first of all, we're a very small school in a very small community. So the school is really the heart of the community and reflects its values and vice versa. The beauty is any student in the Lopez School that wants to participate in sports can do so, irrespective of their skill level. All they need to do is sign up and turn up. And I think that is magnificent as I watch with it. There are no tryouts. There's no disappointment at being cut from a team, no feeling of exclusion. And as a result, most of our secondary students, in fact, take part in varsity sports. It's extraordinary. And they do very well. 2 years ago, the boys soccer team went to the state finals. We've sent 2/3 of the track team to the state meet this past year. We've seen what our girls soccer team has done in 2 years and how they've developed. Kids learn a lot through sport. And the value of teamwork, leadership, commitment, good sportsmanship, the thrill of success, and the reality of losing. That's a part of their education. And I know the positive impact, just from observing my own daughter and the kids that I coach, the positive impact that sports has on these young people. It really is an integral part of their education. Now, that's why I endorse the priority of the Parks and Rec District is placing on supporting school athletics. I think we all appreciate the importance of that. Losing school sports, we have all heard, would have a devastating impact on the school, on the students. And it's perhaps the school's viability, the loss of students, et cetera. And it would have a negative impact on the community. And that, again, reflects the values of the community. Having said that, I think the district must devote the Parks and Rec, some of its support and funding to other community needs. Support for seniors, et cetera.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
It's my 3 minute and 30 seconds.
I do want to do this like a phone set.
Yeah. Written comment number 1, Bridie's offered to read.
Do I go back to the seat?
Yeah, I think so, because this is the record here, so.
You guys won't know if I add to it. No, I'm kidding.
No. I'll pass it around afterwards.
I don't know if they have the person on them.
They do.
Okay.
Am I supposed to?
I
Yeah.
think you can really say who it is. Yeah.
It is the Lobo Pack. Lopez Rec. We wish we could be there to give a public comment, but we have home games tonight. First, we would like to extend congratulations on your formation. It was so exciting to see the community agree there is a need. None may understand that better than us. We are writing this public statement to inform the committee that moving forward, the Lobo Pack is only going to be operating as the school's booster club. Since 2019, we have been filling all the necessary holes of youth sports. Meanwhile, supporting the school's secondary with their athletic needs. We have overextended ourselves. We have no appetite as parents, business owners, full-time employees, and community members to raise the $180,000 needed to properly fund middle and high school sports here on Lopez. Asking us to do this would be inappropriate and unsustainable. We will continue to foster the athletic culture, new unis, swag for our athletes, equipment, and other ways to support our athletes and their programs. We feel it is important to draw this boundary at this time. We care deeply and are crazy passionate about athletics here on Lopez. We will do everything in our capacity to help. Unfortunately, raising the amount needed is not in our capacity. We ask that you take this into consideration as you plan your budgets and while deciding the next levy amount that you take to the voters. We look forward to working with Lopez Rec in the future to set up and sustain youth sports here on Lopez. We also respect and will continue to cultivate our relationship with LISD as it pertains to supporting their athletic department. We are still incredibly hopeful for and supportive of Lopez Rec. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.
The next is Robert Harrison. Dear Lopez Rec District Commissioners, I am writing to voice my support for the Lopez Rec District putting another levy on the ballot the next time that it is feasible. I believe the last election showed that there is a strong support for the concept of the rec district as a means of supporting the school, but that the amount of the levy rate was simply too high. In addition, since the district wasn't created yet, there was not an approved budget, which created some ambiguity and concern about how the funds would be spent. I hope that the rec district will create a solid budget that focuses on supporting the school athletics program while keeping in mind the financial realities of our community. I would also like to give my thanks to everyone who has put in countless hours to pursuing this way of supporting our school and in turn our entire community. With gratitude, Robert Harrison.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Brad. Next up, Rob.
Hello, Lopez Community and Parks and Rec Board. Thanks for letting me talk. I've now been in Lopez Community for about 2 years now, privileged of being the school counselor at the school. And I also have started a wrestling club that we've had a decent amount of young people take part in. I just want to say that, I've been around, moved around a bit in my life, spent 4 or 5 years here, 4 or 5 years there in different communities as a school counselor and a coach for 25 years. So I've kind of seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of different communities. And I just want to say that the communities that I have seen that seem healthy and thriving had sports programs that were solid. They were very well supported by the local community in all different facets, from donors to other types of people supporting them, other types of funding supporting them. And I just think it's absolutely vital. And as I've seen Lopez and started to see this island and what this community is all about, and I look around and just think, man, a few kids leaving here and there can be a massive deal. What Brady has to deal with when he hears even 2 to 3 kids are leaving the island. I've already been involved in situations with parents where we're leaving and moving somewhere else. Sometimes it's sports, why they're leaving. And 2, 3, 4, 5 kids even just makes a massive difference in our school budget. So I definitely would want to advocate for using as much possible of the funding to support sports, make that a focus for kids here. And also, just to remember, while we're a small place, that we can't always fund every single sport that's out there, numbers wise and all that. I've successfully had about 10 to 12 secondary age students and 10 to 12 elementary students coming out to Mat Club, and I've had some coaches and volunteers there that are really excited about it. We do have some times though where unfortunately a student might not be good for the basketball team. They're just not right for the basketball team. They're looking around for other sports. Just to know that we can continue to get funding to help start other things. Could it be a cross-country team, wrestling team, those types of things, to where it's like for all kids to have these opportunities. To to be part of something, because sometimes when it's just kind of the main big sports, volleyball, basketball, it can be hard for kids to find a spot. So yeah, I just want to say that I look around and I see how much of a hub the school is here and how important that is, and just continue to keep that in mind of how important that is to just give the kids the best that we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nico.
Feel awkward speaking behind me, but we'll see how this goes. My name is Nico, and I just want to share a little bit of my experience with sports specifically, because I think that's something that we all find extremely valuable. I volunteered to coach the middle school track team this year. I have never played soccer, or I'm sorry, the middle school soccer team. Never played soccer above the third grade level. And I have multiple other jobs and was commuting to school off island. And I underestimated greatly the amount of work that a part-time middle school soccer coach takes. It is hours of time on the field with 6th to 8th graders, or 6th to 7th graders in this case. It was hours that I had to request off of work in order to go off island, or I had to outsource to find parents or other volunteers. And I can't do it again, honestly. I've had to, like, I'm grateful to be able to offer myself in situations like that. But it is a full-time job, and I don't know if everyone understands what that means. But it is a full-time job. And those kinds of programs that we want to be able to provide for our kids, on a volunteer basis are only possible if you have someone who's extremely excited and competent and has the drive and the motivation. And those people do not exist 100% of the time. And that is like, if we want to have sports next year or the year after or the year after, there has to be a contingency plan. Otherwise, it is people like me who can just show up and have fun, and kind organize people, but I'm not a soccer coach. And so I think that I would just like to emphasize the importance of this happening sooner rather than later, because otherwise kids are gonna miss out on something that's really remarkable. And I think that I got to witness 6th graders become more and more competent and confident and competent at this new thing that they'd never done before. And that was a remarkable thing, and to not be able to offer that, I think would be a detriment to our community. That's all I have.
Thank you, Nico.
Carrie in that.
Hi, thanks for having me. I am also speaking from a sports view. Last year, I had the honor to help coach middle school volleyball, which was awesome. And last year, middle school sports were funded by the PAC and by the school with the little funds they had. And I think there was about 20 girls on the team, which is huge for a school that only has 150 from K to 12. So that's like, kids that play sports in Lopez is like 80% of the kids that go to our school. Those kids got jerseys, they got 2 coaches, they got to go off island, they got to play against other kids. I saw kids become friends that would not be friends outside of their like groups and stuff. There's a belonging, there's a feeling of acceptance. And there's also another layer of kids have to academically be doing well in school to play sports. And a lot of those kids that didn't do well in academics, I saw them fight to get their grades up to play in sports. And I thought it was really, really special, and I enjoyed my time there so much. This year, moving forward, middle school, there's no funding for middle school sports. So my daughter, who is a junior, and myself are now coaching for free, volunteer volleyball. and 24 girls signed up. And what an amazing thing. And they were so excited to play. But the first thing they asked, where's our jerseys? Are we going to play games? Are we going to go off island and play games? And we had to tell them, no, sorry, you don't get jerseys. You don't get to play games off island, but we're going to give you the best that we can. And it was kind of heartbreaking, to tell you the truth. I know how important it was to my kids to play sports, for their mental health, for their social growth, for their love of school. You know, there's been moments where my kids don't want to go to school because it's hard, it's depressing, and they go for sports because they want to play. And they know they have to keep their grades up, they have to attend, and there's a sense of belonging and camaraderie and like a family that is developed within sports that I've seen so many kids have. And so the idea that we might lose sports breaks my heart. And so I really hope that this happens for our school and our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Kurt.
I'm Kurt Fuller. I'm on the Lopez Fit Board here, and I would just like to say that I grew up with after-school sports in junior high school, and college. I know the value of those programs. I also agree 100% with what Callie was trying to say earlier. I think all of the adult recreation programs are well funded here on Lopez through memberships and donations. And if you're going to launch a campaign for another levy, I would urge you to focus on Lopez youth. Not just sports, but the after school programs that have been offered in the past that are at risk right now. I think if you focus your budget on that, you'll find far more support from all the residents here on Lopez. That's it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Next we have Wendy.
Hi, Wendy Stevenson. 2 kids in the school. One's graduated, one's graduating this year. I was on the school board, volunteered at the school for 10 plus years. What I wanted to say, first of all, is thank you everybody for being here. We all have a lot of different opinions on how to slice up this apple. And one of the things that I would ask everybody here to deeply consider is that we're all coming from a place of wanting to help our community and our youth. And I think what we need is a lot of clarity around the issue of if the board can collect the money, how can it be spent legally? I'm very unclear whether or not it can be a direct diversion to the school. That may not be allowed. And I think that and I'm not sure, but I would like communication from the board on that. One of the other things is that when we hear information about something that we like or that we don't like, I'd like us all to sort of sit with the fact, I'm going to ask everybody to kind of sit with the fact that we can't always get what we want and that we need to find some compromises as we move forward with the creation of this board into helping the greatest number of people, not only at our school and our youth, but in our community. Not every program needs to be funded, of course, and nobody wants that. But like, I really think that the clarity of communication on what and why funding is chosen would be incredibly helpful. And when we don't get what we want, we need to sit and think about, are we all approaching this? And I think we all are, with the idea of we're trying to help the most people with a limited amount of funds. So thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Laura.
Hi. I'm Laura Danforth. I work with the Resource Center and have a nonprofit advocating for disability rights. We run programs, summer programs for kids with disabilities, and advocate for people with disabilities, neurodivergence of any age. And this work has been mostly funded by federal grants, which are not, they don't exist anymore. So we are not sure of the future of these programs. To depend on private funding is not a good long con, you know, and you talk about sports and everything, but Parks and Rec actually covers the entire community. It doesn't just cover school sports. It does reflect the needs of the community. And so whoever is steering that, you know, I want to be a part of like hearing the entire community's voice, from abled to disabled, no matter to low income, it doesn't matter. Like it has to reflect our island, which will make it a thriving community and not just cater to a few of us. And even the school, like those sports are there, but they really are at risk right now. And even the few that they cater to are not even going to be catered to anymore. And the reality of that is families will leave the island, families won't be working here on the island. That is a reality that our island faces. The people who volunteer, show up, it's all the same pool of people. And if we can't afford or have our kids represented like fully or ourselves on this island from birth to death, no one's going to want to live here anymore. And federal money is not going to always be coming in. And that's a reality. It's already stopped. And we're an island that can actually do this. We can actually do this. And the thought that a tax levy would stop us boggles me. Thank you.
Laura.
That's the end of the sign up list. Do you want to open it to anyone else? Madam Chair?
Yes, is there anyone else that wants to say something? Okay. I do thank everyone for their comments and their thoughtful listening. Do we want to turn our screen around here? Again, Lynn and Chum. Again, thank you everyone for public comment. It is very important to the deliberations and the work of the commission. And let's move through our agenda here, which I need to put in it. We come to unfinished business. We have our budget committee update. So I might actually hop on this Zoom and share a screen. Does that work? Just then I can navigate the screen. And commissioners, I sent out an updated document for you to view ahead of this meeting. And Chum and I have been doing some work.
In progress.
And
I'll
mute. Okay. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull it up here. So Chum, maybe while I'm getting this pulled up, maybe you could just talk about well, of some of the things we've done together, we're kind of asked to do a quick turnaround here.
Oh, sorry.
But we have put it out to the community to invite members. We've only had one person volunteer so far to be on this budget committee with myself and Chom, but hopefully more will volunteer, maybe after this meeting where so many have attended with enthusiasm. It has been a process of getting more information from the Family Resource Center, which many of you know has been funding so many of our youth activities on a grant that is set to expire in August of 2027. And for a while, even that last year of funding was tenuous, but they did just recently get notice that the federal government is going to say what they are going to do what they said they would do and fund it. So the levy failing in the previous election definitely communicated to us as commissioners that that rate of levy needed to be lowered for the community to want to support it. So first directive was lower your expectations on the levy. And so we are creating a working document of focused areas, and it is a conversation among us on the commission. No one of us can make that decision in a vacuum, but we do need a starting place in terms of what things cost. And so we have some more information here on out of school care, summer youth programs, after school care, and the different rates that they create. So again, I just would like to reiterate, because there are lots of opinions about it, about what we fund with that levy. And very clearly there's a need for youth support. We have not only sports at risk, but also all the funding from that 21st Century grant that the Family Resources Source has been using. That that money is going away. We don't have enough money to support the programming that has been supporting them. And overwhelmingly from the community, we hear, and even from public comment tonight, a desire to support our youth. So as we go forward, let's keep that in mind. But here are some starting place numbers for us to look at. I can go ahead and share my screen if I go back to Zoom. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are a few things on here. One is a budget, and I'll go over that in greater detail. You have it on you, and Chom and Lynn, you should, well, you can see it here too. And that feeds over into rates for us to consider. And then there's some breakouts on the after school and summer youth programs. In our meeting with Stephanie at the Family Resource Center, we asked for what is the slimmed down version of providing the after school program and the summer youth program. The 21st Century Grant has many stipulations that are attached to that funding source of oversight, and you can't charge people for it, and all sorts of, caveats to using that money. So we wanted to look at a model of if a park and rec is doing it, what can it look like? There are a few things that I would just like to point out, and it's kind of in the notes section here. The summer camps serve 20 to 40 students per day. We could potentially cap that at 30. In general, the Lopez Island Family Resource Center is serving 120 of our local youth, what's our enrollment at the school?
191.
Yeah, so a large portion of our youth are served by the programming that's currently occurring. The summer camps are on average 31 students. There is a strong recommendation by the model it's currently run under, that it needs a manager of youth activities specifically. We have some other things on what it costs to be an employee And another thing I would want to point out, and this is for our deliberation as a commission, there's been a federal grant and there's been fundraising, and those two things have been combined to put on this programming. Before the federal grant, there was no after-school program on our community, so it started there. It is definitely well used for a much smaller size of population on Lopez. We have proportionally a much higher use of it than even at Island Rec on Friday Harbor. So it is serving our community right now.
The difficulty too with it is that with the federal grant, they did not allow any charges.
Yes,
So you have put some charges in here to offset some of those costs.
I put revenue in.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Family Resource Center is open to a collaborative relationship and how that youth programming continues into the future. So there's, only Lopez Rec does it, or we don't provide any money for it, and the Family Resource Center fundraises for what they can with it, and we have decreased programming, or there's a collaborative effort wherein we could pay the Family Resource Center to put on programming, or we put on some and they put on some. So I just want to clarify that those are the options available to us. Right now, we're talking about levies and how much we need to include in that levy and when we need to run it. But in terms of the operation of youth programming, we have options available to us. I do want to be also very clear that we use correct terms, because with the school district, it's another government entity. We create an interlocal agreement that is between two government agencies, and we're allowed to do that, and the law supports that. With a nonprofit, you have to do it in a very different way. You're actually contracting services that they're providing, because otherwise you can't just give funds to a nonprofit. So it's not, we would never use the term pass through for those funds. It would be contracted services. So as we go on over to the budget, this is laid out in terms of like a profit and loss statement. And we do start with some pass-through income, or we start with our income. So after school care, you'll see there, it shows if we charge fees, then we can anticipate that there's $24,000 of activity fees that serve as revenue for us. And there's also a little tab there that goes through that information. And you can see that's the more likely scenario. Same with summer youth programs. There's anticipated activity participation fees that serve as revenue. I do want to point out here, this pass-through income on activity fees, I have it here as revenue, but it is also listed at the bottom as an expense. And some people have questioned, like, are you paying people to play pickleball? And the idea is no, we're not choosing to do that.
Correct.
We're choosing to create a structure of a park and rec district that allows us to put on programming, but it is through participation fees that is paid for. And it can be somewhat of an expense to the district. It can be a money-making activity for the district, or it can be break even. Those are options available to us, and we can accommodate that in kind of our assumptions in the budgeting process.
And to confirm, some of the fees and charges are based on some information you got from Island Rec.
So in looking at lots of different park and rec districts, the commissions typically adopt a policy for programming through the district. And usually it's like a standard agreement of, if you want to put on programming, we'll take, either 10 or 20% of the profits of that, and you get paid the remaining percent. So we kind of take some of the money from those participation fees to help pay for the business operations of the rec district. And that would be a thing as commissioners, we would develop a policy around. So you'll see here that there's just one line item for Lopez Island School District athletics. And again, that would be the it would be established through that interlocal agreement that we've been talking about.
As a not to exceed, I think is what we were
Right.
looking at, kids
Yes.
on that committee. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would usually involve like, we get to use the physical resources of the school to put on certain programming when the school isn't using them. There's, lots of things in that interlocal agreement. But here in the budget, it's showing as the expense of that agreement to fund school sports as $180,000. Do you want to speak to any of that at all?
I wasn't prepared to. I mean,
Yeah.
we did a lot of research to come to that number.
Yeah.
That includes like we're in postseason with basketball right now. Girls won tonight, by the way, so they're going to round three. But it does mean they're traveling, they're leaving the island, they're going to Lummi. In some cases, if they make it further, teams have to have overnight stays and things like that. And so the 180 was kind of soup to nuts. It included transportation, it included potential postseason costs, it included middle school sports. So that's why we make it a not to exceed.
Yeah.
That 180 was an all-inclusive number for a robust secondary sports program.
And I think the model that we are using, which is the only one in the state that we know of for the school sports funded by a district, is Island Rec on San Juan. And as I recall, they had direct bill. It was actually, it wasn't just given at 180. It was, this is what it costs to do these things.
Yeah.
School district invoiced the park district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the service they provided on behalf of the rec district. It's one of those relationships that we are going to establish. Per recommendation of the Family Resource Center, I have included a salary for a manager of youth activities. Again, this is open to discussion and deliberation by all commissioners. There is the cost of running that after school program, the cost of running the summer youth programs. There is the cost of personnel, and that is a debatable one. There's options that we can put in there. $35 an hour salary is $72,800 a year. $50 an hour is $104,000 a year. So looks like I put this one in at 45, but that is totally open to discussion. Also, the personnel benefits are listed separately there too. Personnel could be split into two different roles. It could be one role. It could, that's the budget line item for personnel. I will also just take one step back. There's very specific budget reporting requirements that, what's that called? You know the term for it. Like the numbering system. Yeah.
Bar system.
So that we will have to report our expenses and our revenue.
And we get audited every 3 years.
Audited every 3 years. And so there's a lot of state oversight in how we report our money. And I actually aligned these loosely with that bar system.
Great.
Professional development fees. The Family Resource Center currently has higher allocation for that. So that's again something that we could debate if we want to include that in our levy budgeting. Materials. Or supplies for our youth programs. I think again, the Family Resource Center has a higher level of that. So again, that's open for discussion.
Is that lumped together summer camp and after school?
It's
Okay.
Yep. It's just kind of a placeholder at that point. And again,
it's low, but
it is low. I agree. Yeah.
But that's what the public asked.
Yes, exactly. So capital investment was originally a lot higher in what the committee's version is. So as we have been adjusting to try and fit to the full community's need of what they want to see in a levy, that is greatly reduced. It's still something, so that if we have facilities that are in our community that we're wanting to put on programming and they need some investment, there is a very small amount set aside for that. Computers and tech services. We will probably want a website and maybe a computer for our staff. dues and subscriptions. This would be for like registration, software, other things that we need. There are some, that's per actuals for that.
For the computer text stuff, we spent almost that much on our committee for the web stuff. So it's a tight budget, but that's what we need to do.
It is a very tight budget. I did seek real numbers, and that's kind of the lowest to anticipate.
Jenny?
Yes, Lynn.
So isn't that an area where we can partner with other organizations? For instance, LICTA, which is Lopez Island Community Tennis Association, is fully funded, by the people that utilize it. But if they wanted to run a tournament, could they not pay us, the rec department, to do the work of registration, collecting people's fees? And then Parks and Rec gets some of the money and LICTA gets some of the money from running from that tournament. Is that another place where we could capture some revenue?
Totally. Yeah, we have an opportunity when we're looking at revenue to make some assumptions, and that's why I kind of made it like a percentage here. Do we want to earn money off activities so it's actually a revenue source for us? Do we want to anticipate breaking even? That is something for our commission to consider and how we are budgeting for the future. Here I put it at like, it's 95% of what it costs us.
Yeah, I mean, we're not looking at a 30,000 feet. We're trying to get down a bit, but it's still, once we start, it's, it is a budget working its best to be accurate, but it can have some give or take, and I get that.
Yeah. And Lynn, to your point, if an existing organization wanted to run their activity through the Park and Rec, that would be, it would be part of what is a standard contract for that, with known assumptions on what the Park and Rec earns from that and what is given to the organization through the participation fees.
Good, thanks.
Is it okay? I chime in a little bit as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Jenny, I think during the budget committee sessions, you also mentioned too some really important information, and that is that you heard from the assessor that if the levy is approved this year, doesn't matter if it's approved in April or November. Our previous understanding that if the ballot is if the ballot is approved after April, then we are not at our previous understanding is that if we miss that April ballot, the Lopez Rec wouldn't be able to collect any levy revenues until 2028, but actually the funding could flow in 2026, 2027.
So
right?
Just the point of order, just so we're staying on the right thing. I really want to have that conversation, and can we save it for our next agenda item when we're talking about our levy options? Because I think that is definitely something we want to discuss as a commission, and I'd rather just keep that in our levy timing deliberations rather than in looking at the budget.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I just thought that I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget that point. Yeah, and also
let's talk about our levy options and timing when we get to that agenda item. But if you want to talk
next on the agenda,
it is next on the agenda. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I also want to just add a little bit too that, we really treat what was presented here as a scenario, an option, a starting point. I actually find it hard to even get my my perspectives heard in the whole process. I actually presented our 2 additional scenarios where we always keep the school athletics. I feel like, we heard loud and clear that, sports athletics is really important to the community. So even in the lowest minimal budget, which is around 10 cents, is, that's the focus primarily. And I also create another one where the youth focus.
We could decide to zero out a lot of these expenditures if that was our.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I just wanted to speak to the fact that that the budget that was presented is actually the one that reflects the vision of the previous levy, meaning that there's still pretty significant admin capability to provide a lot of services that the community might need. And I just wanted to um, be able to put numbers in perspective. Before for the levy that was proposed last year, admin cost was around 40%. This time, I calculated is about 35%, and that does not include supplies, advertising fees, and transportation, and so on. So just on personnel, and personnel not including the manager of youth activities. So this is a budget that still keeps the vision from the previous proposal of the formation committee, but much more efficient, much more lean.
Sure, I do want to point out that it is much lower rate, but yeah, no, it is a discussion among us as commissioners. Are these
Right.
things
Is it
that we
okay? I
want?
finished though.
Well-
Yeah, I would love to finish. So we have, that, the one that you just presented, Jenny, and also two additional ones that I mentioned, the minimal one that only focus on the school sports, and also middle road where we focus on youth and not much more. And that could also be done in-house or as a pass-through, basically providing funding support to existing organizations that do youth programmings to continue to do what they do, but we just provide the financial support. Anyway, so there were other scenarios that got brought up in the budget committee as well, just that it was not included in the spreadsheet that was shared.
Those are still scenarios that are available to us in this, for sure. Absolutely.
We need to, John, we need to explore the legality of some of the things you're saying. I'm not sure that it is legal. I'm not sure it isn't, but that we can just be a pass-through as a district.
Oh, I would love to learn more about that. I was not aware of legal issues, and we'll do
Well, that
do more
term,
homework on that.
term pass-through is actually not a legal terminology. So again, back to my point of, if you have another government agency, it's an interlocal agreement. The law is set up to have government agencies collaborate and use their resources efficiently so they can collaborate and use those
Right.
funds.
So yeah, no, thank you for that. So yeah, not pass through, but basically contracted services. So
That
instead
would
of doing
be-
it in-house, we would contract for services.
And Tom, I think it's some of the points you're bringing up are good when Tom and I are gonna go visit Island Rec in San Juan and Orcas and their directors and to talk to them. So I think those are good points to bring up and talk to them about it, see what their thoughts are.
Yep, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, kind of many of these things you'll see there's zeros there, like we're not assuming that we're going to have office space rental or utilities to pay or vehicles that we own or property taxes that we pay, but they are part of that BAR's reporting system, so I included them there just for reference. Another one in here that I think is definitely debatable is an allocation for transportation. That would be part of an interlocal agreement, I would assume, with the school district to provide some transportation for either after school programming or not. But that is a line item, at least that I would, is that something we want to include? That's
pretty good chunk of money.
Yep.
Wow, it's huge.
Yep. From conversations with the Family Resource Center, it has been asked for, but it is costly.
Yeah.
So that is something for us to deliberate if we want to include it in there. It wouldn't be for any other transportation than other for youth activities, though, just to be really clear.
And my understanding is that they are not currently providing that service, right?
I don't think so.
No, the school isn't providing that. I don't think LIFRC doesn't have transportation services.
And they wanted it for something. So we could zero that out here and assume that we're not going to provide any transportation. That is
But if,
definitely.
summer camp transportation, there needs to be something in there, I think, some placeholder.
Mhm.
So it could be less, but for now, at least,
Mhm. Yeah,
we're just starting our discussion on the budget.
it's true. Yes, this is not the how much of a levy are we going to put on a ballot conversation. This is here's a starting point for a conversation.
Mhm.
There's also an inflation adder because I don't know if anyone else has caught on, but inflation is real. And there,
I think a good point on that is that our inflation's, sometimes around 5% or greater, but our ability as a government entity can only increase 1%. So,
It
we could be
doesn't keep pace.
losing each year catches up, and that's why we have to go back and want to go back to the citizens every 6 years because to catch up with that inflation.
Well, and a lot of time you see levy lifts for that reason too.
Mhm.
It's like utilities, power bills go up and cost of living expenses, and it doesn't, the 6-year levy duration does not always keep pace with that. So, and I put it here as a kind of a pass-through expense of putting on all those other activities that our community might want, but we are accounting for them in revenue too.
Because we're bringing revenue and
Yes.
offsetting that cost.
So this can be a working document with us as a commission. We can eliminate things, we can add to them. That would probably be more of a study session where we're really getting focused on changing those budget line items, but it does reflect kind of the bar's reporting system and things that we should think about paying for. And so they're included in here. And through the little magical world of sheets, if we change this through adding things, adding revenue or expenses,
26.
it updates the rate that we would use for a levy.
So as it sits right now, if this was what our budget was, we're looking at a levy rate of 26 cents.
Yes, which is a significant decrease from the 37 cents.
25% decrease.
You'll see too, just kind of as a, what does that cost somebody who owns $1 million property? So a 26-cent levy rate would cost an owner of a property valued at $1 million, $21.67 per month. Just so we're mindful of what you get for what you pay. Those are our starting conversation for a budget. It does start at much lower than what was previously proposed. And we as a commission can look at it and propose increases or decreases, significant or otherwise to it.
I wonder how do we share this with the public? Because I'm really happy all these people are here, but I want to make sure they get a chance to see it too. So what's the method we think we can do?
I think if we wanted to have a special meeting where it's more of a work study session and we do the work to refine the levy amount as we think we want to put on a ballot, then after that we could release it to the community in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
That's the challenge. We don't have a budget for a website. We don't have a budget for,
No.
Communications is difficult because we have no funding. So we do have to create and figure that out. Use Lopez Rocks and things like that. Yeah. Use existing.
I also created a website, a personal website at this point. And if we want to consider using that too, I've been posting things there. It's not official, but at least I try to use that as a way to post public documents.
Later in our agenda about that. Yeah. So this is a starting point. I just wanted to be very clear about it. We've just started creating community outreach specifically to be on that budget committee. If there are more people that are interested in that, there's still ability. We would love more people on it. We are faced with when we put a levy on, and we are trying to figure out how much of that. So they're two separate conversations. Are there any questions, comments from commissioners before we move on to the when beyond the how much?
I think the when has something to do, like you're talking about special meetings or additional meetings, because we do have a deadline if we're looking at April. It's a reality. And how do we get that word out? Because one of the criteria that we set was getting that public word out. So I know we'll talk about it more, but
Yeah.
so very good start. And good job, Jenny. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chom. And again, to Chom's point,
Yeah.
this is not set in stone. There are other options here. This is a conversation for us to have as a commission. If we want to lower things, I wouldn't raise them a ton because I think we need to show good faith with the community that they didn't like the first levy amount and we want to make it lower to be responsive to that very clear feedback, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, the only thing that I would like to add is that in addition to looking at just the total amount, I think the story that we tell about what the district is supporting is also important because we heard from some community members that, you know, they would like to see support for the school, or they would like to just see support for the youth programs, but not all ages. So I think maybe going forward, it would be good to perhaps have develop some numbers corresponding to different scenarios, and then have a process where we gather public input or feedback to see where the strongest support is. Because when we go to the ballot, we want it to be successful. We don't want it to fail again. And failing means another delay. And therefore, I think it would be really good to have some kind of consultation process, because I think that's also what we are supposed to come up with, as well as a budget committee, in order to, get discussion among the the commissioners.
Mhm.
So I have a question for the budget committee and the budget that's presented there. It appears to me, and I can't move things around when I want to right now on the screen, but it appears to me like everywhere where you've described a thing, it says youth. Is that mostly accurate?
Well,
I mean,
it is very youth focused. There's business
And that's-
operations, then there's youth.
right. I mean, and that's what people have said they wanted. I don't see a lot of extra, as it were, that's beyond youth programming and the school programming. Is that how you view the budget as it's
I
proposed
think
there?
room for classes, adult classes that actually bring in revenue. They exceed, it's no cost to the district, but that we could be putting on that adds value dollars to us too. So there are some adult things that
Right.
aren't here but are there, are and possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're kind of,
so
the other activities are mocked in there as kind of pass through income and expense.
The only thing I think that I see, that I'm not sure how we all feel. The chamber does a great job with a lot of special events, Christmas tree lighting, other things, and we don't really have any money to help with special events or add special events that, really bring the community together. It's amazing when I've gone to those to see just what that public is, to do it. So it's
yeah,
minor, but it's there.
yeah, I think to speak to Lynn's point, it is true that the budget is very youth focused. However, in considering whether or not we we're going to emphasize the in-house options where we build up the um, in-house capability, with bigger, with more personnel and more infrastructure, to support all kinds of activities, some of which may not be, could be the revenue generating. I think that is the model that potentially could support our age activities. And the other model, which, we have to look at, is this a more efficient model? But that is something that the community has brought up, and that is the model where we contract with another organization to provide the services that REC might want to support, and that would require less overhead, less admin. So we need to, look at both sides, look at the pros and cons, But we just want to, I just want to make sure that we do a good job to make sure that the community feels heard, because we want to earn trust of the community members to be successful when we put the levy on the ballot.
Yeah.
If I'm summarizing this budget, just from my perspective, and clearly I have a stake in this, deep one.
Yeah.
This is what's been presented as an option, granted, has reduced overhead, has eliminated adult programming, focuses on youth, saves school sports, funds after-school programming, brings in revenue through participant fees, and comes in at 26 cents. Is that correct?
That would be, I think,
Yeah.
an accurate
Okay.
summary of it.
Thank you.
I think that the director too, it could be a manager instead of, rec manager that does it. So I heard that a lot from the public. That
Yeah, it says,
don't pay the
says
director.
manager,
Yeah.
and the salary is reduced, the staffing plan is reduced. We need insurance. We're currently elected officials with no insurance. Please don't sue us.
Joan was
Some of that
looking into
overhead
getting a
is-
quote for insurance too. I think it's actually high as it's budgeted here, but
My
there's,
point being
yeah.
that some of these things are not optional. As
Yeah.
a public taxing district, we need an accountant who can verify that we're spending tax dollars legally and appropriately. We need insurance to make sure that we are covered in the case of an eventuality. So some of the overhead is not connected to adult programming per se. It's connected to the operations of a special taxing district.
Yeah.
We have responsibilities with taxpayer dollars to steward them wisely.
And
And
but
legally.
actually, the state has you not call them overhead, they call them business operations. That's the way it is in the accounting system. So it is, you're operating a business and you're using public funds, and some of that comes with operating
And
costs.
state audit.
And
It's very extreme.
yeah, there is one line item in there that's both for election costs, because we're required to put anything on a ballot, and also for audit costs, which are fees you can't avoid.
Right.
Yeah, I think the points that you have expressed are all well taken. Yeah, it's true that there's so many costs that are non-negotiable, and even if we do the minimum thing, there could still be significant costs. And I think like as Jenny mentioned, I'm in the process of trying to figure out with Endurus to see what's the minimum insurance coverage, or what if we add additional, what if we do this, we do that, just to try to understand how it works. And then my hope is that we could present something before the community, so they understand that okay, this wish comes with this price tag, so that we understand the cost implication too of different priorities that we would love to see happening through Lopez Rec.
John, Association of Washington Cities is an insurance pool, AWC. And I will give you the contact that I've been talking to, and they do insurance for districts, for special districts a lot, mostly cities. But that's a good contact for you to have when you're doing
No,
that.
that'd be great. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
do outreach to them, but with no, with no relationship. And they did say that they did tell me that Endurus might be the provider that I would want to contact. They think that they're probably too small for them. That's what they said. But maybe with your contact, I would love to get
Yeah, and when we go to see San Juan and Orcas, we'll talk to the people there and ask them what they use.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great, thank you. I am mindful of just our time here too, and we have more big discussions ahead of us. So one of them is our levy options and the timing of when we place another levy on the ballot. We do have, at least if we have 3 options. There's April, which is fast approaching, when we would need to pass a resolution to place that on there. August, and the November election. In our previous meeting, we identified some criteria for us to consider as we're making this choice, and I'm just going to remind us of it now. The timing of the ballot was the timing of the funds to school sports. And with that, I would say the timing of funding to help support the school in general for their budgeting. The impact on after school and summer programs. The levy amount, that's something for us to consider too. Ballot costs, voter sentiment, and listening to the public, chance of success, and feasibility. So ballot costs, voter sentiment, outreach. Are we going to be successful? Feasibility. Those are definite questions for us. So, as we're mindful of that, Brady, do you want to speak to?
I could say a few things. I mean,
Yeah.
Chom mentioned, do you want to say what you said, Chom, about the April collection? Because you started to say it in the budget agenda item. Now we're in the levy options item where it belongs. Do you want to share again about when we can collect?
You know, I heard it secondhand. I think Jenny, you were the one in direct communication with John Koseth, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you could maybe be the one relaying the message.
Yeah. In the committee's work previously, it was communicated by our county assessor that we had to pass in April in order to be able to receive those funds, to collect those levy funds for the next year. But as we went back to him and asked for greater clarification, that was actually a stipulation based on forming the boundary of the district and creating the district, not actually the passage of that levy. So the new information is that whether we pass a levy in April, August, or November, we will be able to collect the revenue from that levy in 2027. So that is a piece of information that's useful for us. The other piece of information that was clarified with the county, because the county council is putting a levy lid ask on the April ballot. The cost of us putting a levy on that ballot is significantly reduced. And Camelin from elections at the county said it would probably be about 15,000 versus 45,000. So the impact of the cost to us is significantly reduced for that April one.
The school EP&O levy renewal will be in August.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be the standard 6-year renewal of the school EP&O levy coming up in August, and that would be an awkward timeline to have these two levies on the same time, in my opinion. Yeah. November and August and November are both after a board approved balanced budget has to be presented for the school to the state. So April is the only one that, if it passes in April, it can be included in a balanced budget proposal to be approved by the school board. If it passes in August or November, now we know we can still collect in 2027, but we would have to, the board would have to approve a budget without knowledge of that levy money being available.
Yeah, can you talk more about that impact just so that it's clearly understood?
Well, the 180 that is in this budget, that's been in the vision of the budget for supporting school sports, absent that, they're balancing the budget is going to require additional cuts. We don't know what that will look like. There are, you mentioned inflation, costs are going up, contracts are being negotiated. So the $300,000 deficit that we identified this year that LEAF has so amazingly fundraised to fill, is likely larger next year and would be absolutely larger without being able to include levy money from the Parks and Rec. So the board's comfort with approving a quote unquote balanced budget that assumes $500,000 in donations may not be there. And that may be what's required to balance the budget. So, that has me nervous. If we don't propose a balanced budget to the state as a school, then the school goes into binding conditions, which is state oversight.
And
so
I don't want to think,
April is the only time that can prevent that passage in April.
my concerns have been, well, let me go back a little bit. On the information from John Colseth, when we first started, it had to be, the boundaries had to be set. And when I heard that back a year ago,
We did just talk about that,
Okay,
like
yeah,
stepped out.
sorry.
No,
Okay.
that's okay.
yeah, so that's the first thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good news. And so that made me think about when I heard that, boy, I felt like in a real hurry to get to April. But the problem with not going to April is that we wouldn't know where we stand. And April is good because it gives us another option if we happen to fail, which I hope we wouldn't. But we could look deeper or see what, there's no way of polling, and that's the elections are the only way that I see to poll this. So, I think April makes some sense from that standpoint, as long as we meet, these discussion points that we had, that we really think we've thoroughly done our work. And, we know that we have to make a commitment if we're gonna go in April, the 27th to the county. So
I thought it was even sooner than that.
that's right. We need to get the dates from the county, what our, pro statement is, what the absolute deadline, is it a resolution from us, which I think that is, because before,
Resolution.
yeah, before it was a county council when we weren't an entity. And so, that information, makes me concerned because we're, what, the 5th of February, Chelm's back the 16th. We're needing to make a commitment, although I think we have a cancellation time, but by the 27th. So we need, as long as we can, feel that the public's we've listened to them, done those things. I'm open to it. I think we need more study time, obviously, but it's kind of like the budget. It's a placeholder to at least get a bearing where we're at.
Well, I mean, on the side of public comment, the Rally for the Rec was a 2-year initiative. There's 17 pages I printed of Facebook comments. There's Lopez Roc's comments, several different strands. There were 2 town halls. There were multiple library meetings. I know that was about something specific, something different than this. But, and even in public comment tonight, I think support youth came through loud and clear. Lower the levy amount came through loud and clear. Seek revenue streams, so participant fees to support non-youth programming came through loud and clear. And to save school sports, we need to pass it in April. So my preference, strong preference, would be that we put pedal to the metal, put a resolution in for the April ballot, and spend the time between now and then refining that budget at 26 cents with more public input, certainly. And we also don't have to collect, as we discovered, the full amount. So if that process reveals that what we want to do instead is a 10-cent, like Chomp's saying, the low end, we could still collect that 10-cent. But if we don't do it in April, then it's going to be a real challenge on our youth community and our school families.
I think the other thing that we had, we were right at 60% voted for the organization to become an entity. And that's what we need. It's not 50% because we're at almost at 50% for voting for the levy. So it's a close number. It's not an unattainable one. And I think that we would be lacking the momentum that we had if we didn't move forward.
I mean, in those Facebook comments, opposition said 27 cents. It wasn't even offered by Rally for the Rec. It was oppositional statements saying, if it saves school sports and funds school programming and youth programming, I'd pay 27 cents. These are people presumably who voted no on 38 cents. 37, sorry. But I mean, just like that is public comment, right? That's out there. That's part of the discussion that we've been having for 2 years. There's people in this room who said that they would pay 27, but not 37.
Lynn was going to speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
My question is, I've heard some different numbers. Do we know the exact percentages of people that have to vote? I know we need 60% of the people who vote, but it seems like there's some formula about how many people compared to how many people voted in November. Do we have those actuals?
Yeah, we have historical knowledge to say that our voting threshold meets that need. So I very specifically have asked the county that question, and historically we have enough voters to meet that threshold. It is something for us to consider. But for example, this wonderful building that we're in here went in an August election, and they had enough voters for that one too. It's very common. It's actually more common for junior taxing districts to run a levy in a non-general election. General elections sometimes cloud the mood of voters in ways that are unpredictable, whereas standalone ballot measures are asking one question or two questions, not a whole bunch of questions.
I have one more question that's more of a, my other question is more of a, what is the best way to educate people on what we've done with the budget? Because it seemed like, as Brady has mentioned, there was lots of information going out on Facebook, on our, informational pages, on town halls, and I still heard a lot of confusion from people about, first off, how a levy works. Second off, yeah, I'm not going to vote for, whatever. So this is more just I guess, an existential question for us is what is the best way for us to educate people on the fact that we did listen to the extent that we are dropping the rate. We're going to make some cuts in the budget to try to let people know that we're responding and need their support.
Yeah, I really agree with you, Lynn, that I think the process of educating, of making sure that people, um, understand the new amount and the rationale behind it, I think that's a very important process because I feel, yeah, success is definitely something that we want to aim for. I understand that that we, there's some urgency on the school budget front, but at the same time, I also feel like is the going for April ballot, it will cost more. It's not going to be $40,000, which is great. Now, great news because we got the county to share the cost. The cost now is reduced to $15,000 to go in April as opposed to November, which is I think in low thousands. And also I did get just to follow up on your question, Lynn, about voter turnout. Um, Cameron from San Juan County elections, this mentioned that um, the year 2016 was the last year that there was a Lopez district in a special election in April, and the voter turnout was around just 40%. So that's another risk factor that we have to consider, considering that we don't have a lot of time to turn out voters. Are we going to have enough votes to meet that threshold? In addition to being able to get 60% approval. So I personally feel that we need time to really get the word out. Actually, firstly, zeroed in on the right amount and the right story to communicate with voters, so that they feel heard and they want to support this. We received 49%, 49.49% yes, but we need to, get more than 10%. You need to move that approval rate by more than 10% in order to pass the levy. So I feel like I want to take this decision seriously and prudently. Cost is definitely a factor for me. I want to be prudent about this. We don't want to just keep bringing this to the voter because each time we fail, I feel there's some social capital that is lost, that we as a commission might not be as prudent with the public money. So that's my concern.
I think delaying, we lose momentum. I think we get 10% from 11 drop in the levy ask.
25%, I think is about what I was figuring.
What do you mean?
25% less than is the percentage
Mhm.
instead of pennies. And I think, Tom, I think, you know, your thoughts are really good, and I think that we shouldn't decide tonight. You know, this is something that, like this budget, you know, I just looked at the budget tonight, and it takes some time that we're going to have to really synthesize it for ourselves and you know, work on it. So I think it's good discussion that we've done, and we need to have some more meetings.
Yeah, is there I mean, Brady, it sounds like you're motivated on an April ballot. Is there sufficient consensus among our commission in general to warrant a special meeting that can do that work to fine tune and have, so we keep that option open? Because if the next meeting is not till March, then we don't have that option open. Personally, the consequence to the school budget and what that means to our community is worth the acceleration. So, my personal opinion would say I'm sufficiently motivated to try and work to keep our April option open. I mean, Lynn or Chom, what would you say to that?
I would agree with that. I think that we should act, even if at the last moment we pull the plug. And I'm 99% confident the filing date is February 27.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna leave myself that 1%. But no, I think that we should, you know, full bore. I mean, everybody. I have not heard a single person say I'm against funding school athletics. Unless there are people that are just going to vote no matter what, because they don't want to pay a levy rate. But every comment I've heard, the school sports is like kind of the most important thing. Some people are saying we should only do the school sports. So I don't know why we would cut it off, not make every effort to have that be a reality. And I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that if you go without school sports for a year, it would actually cost more to ramp it back up. Not even considering the fact that families might leave because their kids can't play sports anymore. So
Yeah.
I think
you
we
just got
should
that
make.
point entirely right. Yeah. If sports isn't eliminated, you have an enrollment cliff that occurs that has a compounding effect on the budget and our entire community in a really dramatic way. So we want to avoid that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have a shared understanding that deciding when to put the ballot before the voters is not now. Yeah, by deciding to have more time to communicate with voters, so that when we put the new levy amount on the ballot, so that it's successful, does not equate to killing the athletic program. I just want to make that clear, because if we were to rush and do the April ballot without sufficient communication to the voters for the voters to have the, at least 40% turnout, that also means that the athletic program of the school does not get funded. So I just want to be clear that, the timing is done in the, in a way to maximize the chance of, success in the to get the threshold that we require. And therefore, and now we know for sure that by postponing, it does not mean that we will not have funding coming in 2027. And so, yeah, just wanted to make that clear. And as for my personal preference, I really feel that we, I'm happy. To your question, Jenny, I'm willing to work to keep the option open, but my preference is that I think, we should have more time to really hear the voters. I know that there have been a lot of exchange, but the views and opinions that have been expressed last year were based on a certain vision of the rec. And now I think as elected officials, I think we have the duty to really listen to our constituents. And I think we need more time in order to make sure that their opinions are reflected in the new levy that we design.
Yeah, I think, it's tough because, we need more time and we need more money to do a flyer that goes out or, something. So we definitely need those things, but I'm not sure, that we have it. I do know that we can go twice to the voters in one calendar year. So I would really recommend that we go either April or August, and that gives us an opportunity at the last gasp to go in November. And the reason for that is backup. I mean, I hope we're successful this time. And, that's, gosh, everybody's hope. I hope, I was encouraged to hear my opponent that I won by one vote wasn't even saying 10 cents. That was great. Thank you. Gives me hope because, that's important. But, I want you to look at it from the time frame that, you want to have your options and you gotta have, we may need two votes this year because if it goes past November, then it does go to 28.
Yeah.
So, it's
What I heard was a agreement to leave it on the table
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
calendar a special meeting to further discuss.
Yeah.
And
I have a question for Brady. Brady, could you please re-explain, because maybe I misunderstood,
Great.
the budget timing? Because I thought I understood that if you don't have the levy approval in your hand, when you have to turn over your budget for the 26-27 school year, you're not going to have any funding for athletics for the 26-27 school year. Am I incorrect? Did I misunderstand that?
if we don't have a levy passage for Parks and Rec to fund school sports in April, we can't include that amount in the budgeting process for next school year.
Yeah.
But if we were to, so therefore we have to make cuts to balance the budget that the board would approve July 31st. If we end up passing in August, this levy, or we pass this levy in November, we can collect that money in January of 27, but by then the cuts would have been made in the approved budget by the board. We can then potentially go back to the board, do a board amendment, try and rehire people, reconstitute a program. If it's November, the chances are that it impacts the fall sports season. So April is an enrollment, but yeah, so and the budget's a moving target. We don't know, it's based on enrollment. We can't predict at this time costs and enrollment for 26-27. That generally becomes clear in May, and the board has to approve a projected enrollment number. So we're not going to have like a clear sense of the school budget before April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think there was I thought I heard some relief that, we'll get the money at the same time if it passes in November, but it's really not apples to apples. You'll get the money at the same time, but you won't have been able to plan appropriately for that money.
Correct.
The school budget is the piece that would be impacted by later levy. So August and November wouldn't impact after school and summer programming because those are still funded through the rest of the year, but it would impact school sports.
I have a question. Did I hear correctly, Brady, that you actually mentioned that it's possible for the board to approve that, approve the budget with anticipation that the funding would come even if, let's say if the ballot, what we were to go with the August ballot, and we anticipate that we'll be successful, the school, the board could still approve a budget with that number, with even with the uncertainty, it can still be included as anticipated revenues. Like
That's
in the
not,
past, for example, like you anticipated that there would be LIEF contribution to provide, to close the budget hole, and we did not have any certainty that we would be able to raise that, but the board was able to, include that in the budget despite, lack of 100% certainty. Isn't it up to the board?
it is up to the board.
Okay, yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, but just to be clear, if it passed in April, the board would be given information that they have $180,000 of guaranteed funding available to them, and they would devise a budget around that, and staffing decisions would be made with that funding in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's also possible too, if the board anticipate that this money will come from, let's say, August ballot, the board could also decide not to cut the athletic program. It is up to the board, right, to whether or not they think that this, that whether or not they want to cut the athletic program, because, given the uncertainty of the funding.
It's up to the board to decide what their appetite is for
Risk
I
or
guess
uncertainty.
anticipated revenue, right? Whether
Right.
that's donations or levy funding. The $300,000 that they approved for this current school year, they were uncomfortable. So I think if that number goes up, their comfort goes down. So I can't speak for the board, obviously, but and I don't know if the state can allow, like, it's a bit of a budget maneuver to approve a balanced budget that assumes $300,000 in donations was a maneuver to avoid state funding. Leaf had committed. Leaf then fulfilled that commitment, and thank goodness we're clear for the year. But a higher number becomes less comfortable, right? So for the board to say, like I said, it could be $500,000 of a gap that the board is saying, I'm confident we'll raise that, we'll secure it somehow. I'm not sure especially with a majority new board, what their comfort would be for that.
Yeah. April creates greater stability of planning for our youth programming, period.
If it's successful.
If it's successful. Yep. Yep. And then if it was, yeah, it's why we have various criteria that we're considering.
Yeah.
But one thing it does seem like came from this meeting is that keeping it on the table and having a special meeting to keep deliberating April, because if we don't have another special meeting, then we're taking it off the table. But I hear that we have sufficient openness to it to schedule another special meeting for kind of a budget study session.
It's almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, let's get on it.
I'm not sure that I don't think I want to look at the calendar, but that we do two special meetings. I mean, anticipate that. And like we did with the committee, we were meeting every Friday, that we do this same thing. Until we decide the end of February. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
So as we look to next week, are commissioners available maybe next Thursday? You want to look at that?
Yeah.
12?
No, I am.
Sorry, can it be Friday for next week? So sorry, I will not be in a place where I have guaranteed internet access.
I'm willing to move to Friday for John because she's 5th of the
13th? Friday the 13th. John, are you in Thailand time still?
Yes, it will be the last time I'll be in Thailand time.
So will 4 p.m. work again?
Yes.
Okay.
Friday the 13th at 4 p.m.
13th at 4 p.m. Okay. So we don't need any I move to do things on that. We'll just we can schedule that.
I can make a motion, I think we do need a motion to set it.
Yeah,
for a
I
special
think
meeting,
a
so
special meeting, yeah.
We can actually, Open Public Meeting Act doesn't even apply to scheduling a special meeting, but we can do it here and that way we're very clear on it. Do you want to move to have a special meeting?
I make a motion to have a special meeting Friday the 13th, 4 o'clock,
And the location,
TBD, because we have to
To be determined.
check this room and we'll get public notice.
second that
Okay.
motion.
All in favor of scheduling a special meeting for Friday the 13th at 4 p.m. with a to be determined location, say aye.
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 Aye. So that is unanimous.
Now we can go from there, see what we're.
Can we push the remaining agenda items to that meeting? Can I make the motion to table?
For efficiency of time?
Discussion and contact information for the county
Sure.
to Friday the 13th?
Works for me.
So the motion that Brady just made is to table the remaining items until our next scheduled meeting on Friday the 13th. And Kit, you said works for me. Was that a second?
Yes. That's what it meant.
Are we all comfortable with putting those last two ones off until next Friday? Any discussion around that?
Sorry, what's the last two ones? Sorry.
The website discussion and some contact information for the county.
I would like
Procedural
to add to the meeting location, because we have some more information, possibly the resource center. It's a little nicer.
Mm-hmm.
And
It'd
also,
be nice to find a home for permanence.
yeah, and also, yeah, because of the potentially very short time frame, I wonder if we could discuss the idea that Dan proposed about having having a little bit of more of a dialogue with voters, so that we can utilize this time also as time to hear people who have views to share.
Mm-hmm. So adding public comment maybe at the end of that session or the beginning? Okay.
But
Or
it's public
both,
comment
yeah.
with, like Dan said, with dialogue, like expecting a response.
Yeah.
And that's not our policy, so we have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to figure that out because that's
Right.
not public.
Right, yeah. Right,
Late
yeah.
that time, so
Yeah.
table it.
But are we, there's been a motion and a second to table our additional agenda items to our next meeting on Friday the 13th at 4 p.m. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. They're
Motion
tired people.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning at
What's that?
7:58 p.m. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So our meeting is adjourned at 7:58 p.m. Thank you, everyone.